Ladies and gentlemen, Osama bin Laden has been killed. He is dead. That's right, you have heard it here. He is dead. And if you don't believe me, just take a listen to this.
And it's a significant success for the United States and our special forces. This is obviously one of the most intensive manhunts ever. It was extraordinarily difficult, and those most affected have been waiting for this day for a very long time. So, we all understand that the immediate risks are there, but that would not deter us one moment from trying to achieve this day.
So we likely to see U.S. security agencies, the U.S. alert level for terrorist attack being raised in the coming days, you think?
It depends on whether we get evidence of any specific threat. Certainly there's a generalized concern about the upcoming days and weeks ahead, but I don't think the threat level will change unless we get particular intelligence that there's a specific threat in progress.
Okay. I was just going to ask you one last question, sir. What do you think this is going to change as far as the strategy in the war on terror in Pakistan, in Afghanistan? We've seen Obama very much involved in this, heavily involved. This is one of his priorities, his foreign policy priorities. Is anything going to change as a result of this death?
Well, I think it's a continuation of some changes that were already underway. The central al-Qaeda organization has been diminishing in importance, and some of its affiliates like that in Yemen, Somalia, and elsewhere have taken on increased importance. This is going to accelerate that trend. I'm certain there'll be a lot of public interest and attention to Ayman Zawahiri, but I think the focus has shifted in significant part to dealing with some of these very dangerous offshoots of al-Qaeda, and I think that Osama bin Laden's killing will accelerate that and also accelerate the decline in importance of the central al-Qaeda organization.
Well, the risks are there, but many people also think, Mr. Schiff, that because of the Arab uprisings and what we're seeing in the Middle East right now, the appeal for al-Qaeda is somewhat weaker, and that Islamist groups no longer have the power that they had just a few years ago. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think what's been taking place in the Arab world with these very popular revolts against corrupt and authoritarian regimes has been very inspiring to people all over the world. And part of what makes it so inspiring is that it's being led by young, idealistic people who want something better for themselves and for future generations. And I think that runs very contrary to the al-Qaeda narrative, particularly in countries like Tunisia and Egypt that have shown that peaceful revolutions can succeed and bring about enormously swift change. I think that's very encouraging, and so I do think that al-Qaeda has been marginalized, and that probably is some of the most significant change that we're seeing in many years, and I think that's a very positive change.
Okay, thank you very much, Congressman Adam Schiff, joining us there on the line from Washington, D.C. Thanks for your thoughts as we continue to bring you this breaking news story of Osama bin Laden's death. That's the scene in New York City. That's Times Square, I believe. Crowds gathered to celebrate this news. Osama bin Laden, of course, believed to be the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks on September 11, 2001. That's over 3,000 killed in attacks in New York and Washington, D.C. That's New York, and this is Washington, D.C., outside of the White House, where Barack Obama made that announcement just a short while ago. Crowds have also gathered there, even though it's 1:15 a.m. in D.C. on early Monday morning. The announcement made on Sunday night by the U.S. President on May the 1st, which will certainly be an historic day for the Obama administration, announcing the death of al-Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden, the most wanted man in America. Bin Laden, of course, the leader of al-Qaeda and believed to be the mastermind of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Tarek Besley looks back now at the life of Osama bin Laden.
The world's most wanted man, now dead. Osama bin Laden, sought by security services since before the attacks of 9/11 2001, has dominated global consciousness ever since. Born in Saudi Arabia in 1957, he was the son of a prominent businessman of colossal wealth. At age 14, Osama inherited more than $300 million. Journalist Hassan Ibrahim knew bin Laden as a schoolboy.
Osama bin Laden was one of the quietest, politest, most kind boys in the school. He kept to himself, was very religious, and was a pacifist. He wouldn't participate in the shenanigans of students and the pranks and, you know, the stuff people used to get to do. I mean, he had the ingredients of a very religious Muslim.
Later, bin Laden studied business and economics in Jeddah.
He was more confident, but again the same attitude, a quiet, polite, a true gentleman.
The 1998 bombings of US embassies in Tanzania and Kenya, which killed more than 200 people, first put bin Laden on the most wanted list. 2 years later, Al-Qaeda was blamed for the bombing of the USS Cole, an American destroyer in the Yemeni port of Aden. 17 American servicemen died. But it was the attacks of September 11, 2001 that gained him the greatest notoriety. The hijacking of 4 passenger planes and the destruction of the Twin Towers in New York saw nearly 3,000 people killed.
When he spoke, he was very interesting in the sense that he's probably the only Arab figure I've met who doesn't say the first thing that comes into his mind. You know, most people, and it applies in the West too, camera comes up and they have to say something because they're frightened of looking stupid. And I'd ask a question of bin Laden, and he'd sit on the ground and think about how he wanted to reply, and he'd get a piece of mishraq wood and start cleaning his teeth. And I'd sit there sort of watching this tooth-cleaning operation, waiting for the words of bin Laden.
Bin Laden's central belief was that Sharia Islamic law is the only way to bring peace and stability to the Muslim world. All other ideologies, he believed, needed to be fought against, using violent means, even if that resulted in the death of women and children. There have been dozens of tapes purporting to be from Osama bin Laden or his associates since 9/11. Over time, he visibly aged. Once spry, he was later seen walking with a stick, giving rise to speculation about his health. From his role in the fight against Soviet troops in Afghanistan to road-building efforts in Sudan to win the support of locals, bin Laden was a world figure for a quarter of a century. Al-Qaeda has now lost its figurehead, but many argue this will have little effect on the group, whose followers have sworn to see his vision through to the end. Tarek Besley, Al Jazeera.
Scenes of joy in Washington, D.C. and New York City as well, as the news that Osama bin Laden has been killed. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction is in countries such as Pakistan and Afghanistan. In fact, let's speak to our correspondent, Kamal Haider, who joins us now live from the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. Kamal, just bring us up to speed with the latest reactions there and what you know about the operation that led to bin Laden's death.
Well, as I had mentioned earlier, and I think it would be pertinent to say that once more, is the fact that last night Pakistani sources in Abbottabad, in fact even our own source in Abbottabad, told us that late night after 1 p.m. Helicopter gunships were involved in targeting a house in Bilal town situated in that city, and after that he said that there were at least 5 explosions. This morning when Obama spoke and did confirm that they had killed their #1 target, he also mentioned Abbottabad. So that attack taking place late last night, according to our sources, using helicopters. According to our sources, one of the helicopters was apparently shot down, an Apache helicopter that is said to have crashed on the location, and a number of people are said to have been wounded in the operation. 3 to 4 people were killed alongside with Osama bin Laden. No confirmation as to who those people would be, but confirmation that those wounded were taken to the military hospital. Also reports coming in that the Pakistani military was not in the loop about this operation. There have been reports in the past that America's special unit, the Delta Force, was somewhere in Pakistan, something that nobody had been able to confirm earlier.
Okay, and what has been, I know it's quite early there still, but what do you expect the reaction to be in Pakistan to the news that bin Laden was indeed killed on Pakistani territory?
Well, one thing is quite clear, that Pakistani military has been on the offensive in the tribal areas, Waziristan, in the Bajawar agency, and so the ground was shrinking under the feet of the Al-Qaeda leadership. It must not be forgotten that while Osama was the head of the outfit, he formed the outfit, yet he was not the main man in control of operational command. That command, many people believe, was with Dr. Zawahiri. So, despite the fact that it's a major victory for the Americans, it may not in any way dent Al-Qaeda's capability, which has a footprint across the Middle East now, even though not as effective as it used to be.
We have been listening to a live simulcast of Al Jazeera and the news tonight, a U.S. military operation with 4 helicopters in an air raid that took place about 35 to 40 miles north of Islamabad, with the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. 202-585-3885 and 202-585-3886. Let's get right to your phone calls. First from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Hey, I just want to say I think it's great Osama bin Laden's killed, but I think America needs to look at what they're doing to the soldiers with the way they're celebrating and everything, because it is going to have consequences on the soldiers. I was deployed to Afghanistan from the burning of the Quran. That was all over the news and everything. And while that was aired over the news and everything, things heavily intense overseas. And I think there's just going to be bad consequences from the way people are celebrating and going about this.
Thanks for the call. And the celebration is going on in Washington, D.C. and in New York. This is the scene here in the nation's capital, outside the White House, as folks are gathering along 17th and Pennsylvania Avenue, and word first beginning to leak out at about 10:45 Eastern Time. The president addressing the nation from the East Room of the White House. That took place at about 11:35, and of course we'll hear more details in the ensuing days. Our next viewer is from northwestern Indiana. Good morning.
Morning.
Go ahead, please.
Excuse me?
Go ahead, please.
All I can say is go USA, and I think we should make this a national holiday.
Thanks for the call. Clyde, North Carolina is next. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say congratulations, USA, and I'm glad that we got him, and I think that justice has been served for the 9/11 victims.
Senator John Kerry, who's the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, issuing a statement saying, quote, "The killing of bin Laden closes an important chapter in our war against extremists who killed innocent people around the world." Again, Osama bin Laden, who was captured and killed. Confirmation coming from the White House earlier tonight. Next is a viewer in Tampa, Florida. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. My name is Susan, and I just want to say God bless America, and God bless everybody who was in our armed forces. I've lost people in that 9/11, and I want to say whether he's there or not, they should be brought in hell.
Albany, Oregon. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. You're on the air, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, my name's Lois Prince. I'm in Albany, Oregon. And I thank God for a president that had a nutsack to go after that idiot. And I'm just glad and surprised and happy.
New Orleans is next. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hey, sweetie. My name's Darlene. I was watching C-SPAN yesterday evening with the White House correspondent dinner.
Do you have a comment on the news tonight with...
Yes, I do. Yes,
please
sir.
go ahead.
I do. Seth Meyers made a comment about Osama bin Laden showing up on C-SPAN, and it was a joke. And our president was sitting there in front of everybody at the White House dinner. I mean, not the White House dinner, but the correspondence dinner.
Correct.
And Seth Meyers made a comment that since nobody ever watches C-SPAN, that Osama bin Laden had been there, and he made, he was there on C-SPAN, but nobody paid attention to him. And it was like a big joke of the evening. I watched the whole thing. And President Obama never even gave a clue that he knew what had happened. Obviously, the man had died, from what I understand, a week ago. And I'm just trying to find out, what is going to happen to SNL. You know what I'm saying? In retrospect, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
I'll stop you there. Thanks very much for the call. By the way, we will clearly be learning a lot more details. The word came tonight that the president would have a speech from the White House. No indication in terms of exactly what the content would be. But then shortly after 10:30 Eastern Time, the confirmation that Osama bin Laden was captured and killed, an operation that has been in the works, we're told, for the last couple of days. A statement from President George W. Bush, who said earlier this evening, President Obama called to inform me that American forces had killed Osama bin Laden. He went on to say, I congratulated the president and the men and women of our military and the intelligence community who devoted their lives. The fight against terror goes on. But tonight, President Bush said America has sent an unmistakable message. No matter how long it takes, justice will be done. One more call, Albany, Oregon. Go ahead, please. Caller, you're on the air. We'll try one more time for Albany, Oregon. Let's again look at the scene here in Washington, D.C. as the demonstrations continue at about 1:30 Eastern Time. And we're going to rejoin Al Jazeera with its live coverage of the developing story, the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden.
So they had become less relevant, not because they don't have the capacity to strike, but their ability to appeal to the public has really been weakened. And so in that sense, I think it's ironic. I mean, the fact that you have somebody like Gaddafi trying to scare the Arab public by saying that the ordinary people that are opposing him are nothing but Al-Qaeda terrorists tells you how Al-Qaeda's name has been muddied even more in the Arab world over the past few months through Arab revolutions. So I think it comes at a time when, in fact, they had lost a lot. And I think bin Laden, before he was killed by the American forces, had to be watching these successes of people who would have opposed him. I'm sure with a lot of frustration because he had failed to topple the same governments that ordinary peaceful people are succeeding at toppling. And here in America, obviously, it is also interesting that this happens on Barack Obama's clock, not on George W. Bush's clock. George W. Bush was very much disliked in Arab and Muslim countries. They don't have the same resentment toward this president. This president has focused more on Afghanistan, not on Iraq, is started pulling out of Iraq, and frankly, the anger with America was more over Iraq than Afghanistan, and you can see that now that America is disengaging from Iraq. The degree of anger with America is reduced. So the timing is also very interesting that this happens when the pressure is a little bit less on the United States in the Arab world.
Well, the pressure may be less now, as you say, but now this makes the risk of attacks against the U.S. and U.S. interests very high, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think in the short term it's a very dangerous period. I think the president saying the U.S. has to be vigilant, everybody else has to be vigilant, because not just the U.S., Al-Qaeda has targeted many people in the Middle East, many people in the Arab world, certainly Pakistani government. And at this time, yes, I think they will not only want to avenge the death of bin Laden, but they also want to register that they're still there, that they have capacities. And I think it's a very dangerous period that everyone is going to be watching very carefully.
Okay, thank you very much for your thoughts, for joining us there live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. All right, let's go now to Monica Villamizar, who's with the crowds outside of the White House, who's been speaking to one of the first American soldiers to go into Afghanistan.
Well, we're in front of the White House where the president has just addressed the nation, and people are gathering here by very large numbers. I can tell you that this is a very large crowd. We haven't seen a crowd like this probably since when President Obama was elected, and I'm hearing also after President Nixon resigned. It's a pretty historic event, obviously, and I'm joined by, please tell us who you are. I know that you're a Marine, and I want your reaction to this very big news.
My name is Jake DeLiberto. I'm the co-founder of Bipartisan Veterans Coalition, Veterans for Rethinking Afghanistan. And I was first boots on the ground in 2001, and I was first boots on the ground in Iraq 2003. And regardless if you're Republican or Democrat today, today's a huge day because now it's done. The war on terror, as we know, as was framed by the Bush administration, is over with. We can declare victory, call it over.
Try to get some other reactions too here from the crowd. Please, one by one.
It's finally happened. It's here. We got it. Go ahead. It's over.
Why did you come here? Explain our international viewers in many countries who are watching you right now. Why
this is great news, and we're so excited. It's finally over. 10 years we waited for this.
I'm John Winters. We came from American University. We are all so excited.
One of the biggest news for all these people, the biggest news they have heard for sure. I will be keeping you posted with the developments here on the ground in front of the White House. Monica Villamizar, Al Jazeera in Washington.
It's certainly going to be a very long night, a very long Sunday into Monday night in Washington, D.C., where the crowds are still very thick outside of the White House to celebrate news of Osama bin Laden's death. And that's the scene in New York. Flags waving, USA. Patriotism is at its peak right now in the USA. This would almost remind us of right after 9/11 when people put out flags all over their towns and cities to show that they are indeed American and proud of it. Well, it seems that this is one of those moments now. Let's speak to now author and Taliban expert Ahmed Rashid, who joins us on the line from Madrid. Thank you very much for your time. Osama bin Laden's dead. What does this do for Al-Qaeda? How big of a blow is this for Al-Qaeda?
Well, there's no doubt that this is a very major blow to Al-Qaeda, and certainly he was, for the last decade or so, an inspiration. But it must be said that I think the jubilation expressed by the crowds, that we just heard, is perhaps a bit preemptive, because Al-Qaeda today is not a centralized, hierarchical organization. This is an organization that is now very diffused. Its new philosophy is one person, one bomb. In other words, we don't have to carry out another 9/11. We need individuals who are prepared to kill themselves in carrying out suicide attacks in Western cities. Now, that is not something that is so difficult to organize. And we've seen already in Times Square, in the case of Zazi, who was trying to bomb the subway in New York, the Pakistani Hassan Shahzad, who was trying to bomb Times Square. We've seen instances of this already happening. And the fear is that there's going to be a lot of anguish and anger, and people are going to want to take revenge at his death, and not just in the United States, but right around the world.
Tell us more about the command structure of Al-Qaeda. Now that Osama bin Laden's dead, who's going to be taking over? Will it be Ayman al-Zawahiri?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be huge pressure now to find Ayman al-Zawahiri, because I'm sure he's not very far away. Bin Laden was living in Abbottabad. This is a very large Pakistani city, which also houses the Pakistan Military Academy. And it's quite possible that al-Zawahiri would be close by in one of the villages nearby or another town nearby. But yes, he would be taking over, and he has been one of the architects of making Al-Qaeda a much more diffuse organization, not so centralized, not ordering every attack himself, but allowing individuals on the ground in those respective countries to make their own decisions. And we saw that, for example, in Iraq, where al-Zawahiri was instrumental in handing over the al-Qaeda franchise to Zarqawi, who was, of course, later killed by American forces. But the fact was that al-Qaeda, the central, in other words, bin Laden and al-Zawahiri, had no control over what was going on in Iraq. And that's how the new al-Qaeda is operating.
Right. So how are the Al-Qaeda affiliates, in fact? You're talking about the new Al-Qaeda. There are a lot of affiliates, of course. This is almost like a McDonald's franchise. I mean, you've got Al-Qaeda in Iraq, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, in the Maghreb. How are they going to react to this news? Will they try to take revenge, in your opinion?
I think they will, yes. I think they will. I think they will. And already we're seeing in Western capitals they're bracing themselves for attacks. I think there will be all sorts of attacks. There'll be organized attacks in the West and in the Middle East and in North Africa. There will be random one-off attacks by individuals who've got hold of some explosives and who are just feeling very revengeful and very angry and upset. There will be those kinds of one-off attacks which will be very difficult to stop. And then there will be the attacks by long-term sleepers, that is, individuals who've been planted into Western societies or Arab societies and who have been dormant here but who have access to explosives, who work out some plots, they will be launching their plots. So I think quite a lot is possible in the days ahead.
And what do you see the impact of the uprisings right now that we're seeing in the Middle East, in Yemen, in Syria? What impact has that had on the appeal of Al-Qaeda?
Well, that has been remarkable because, of course, the impact has been very, very little. The fact that these movements in Tunisia and Egypt and other places for democracy, for modernization, liberalism, etc., go against the grain of Al-Qaeda. And now, and there's been a lot of talk about how can Al-Qaeda take advantage of these movements. And I think now with the death of bin Laden, Al-Qaeda is going to have an opportunity because what it's going to say is that we are seeking revenge for the death of bin Laden, and that and that its members in the...
From reaction in Spain and a live simulcast of Al Jazeera to the scene in Washington, D.C., just outside the White House on 17th and Pennsylvania Avenue. The crowds have been gathering throughout the last hour and a half to 2 hours. We want to use this opportunity to get your reaction to the news of the night, the capture of Osama bin Laden. He is in U.S. custody. His body, we should say, is in U.S. custody. Some statements tonight, first from New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who said, quote, "New Yorkers have waited nearly 10 years for this news. It is my hope that it will bring some closure and comfort to those who lost loved ones on September 11th, 2001. And from President Bush, who said, President Obama called me earlier tonight to inform me that American forces have killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda that attacked America on September 11th. I congratulated him and the men and women of our military and the intelligence communities who devoted their lives to this mission." And from Senator John Kerry, the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, "We owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the men and women of our intelligence agencies. I commend the President and his national security team for never forgetting the need to secure justice for those who lost loved ones nearly 10 years ago." 202-585-3885 for those of you who live in the Eastern and Central time zones. 202-585-3886 for those in the Mountain and Pacific time zones, as we come to you at 1:41 in the morning here in the nation's capital. Bowie, Texas is up first. Good morning.
Well, good morning. I just want to say that y'all had a caller about 15 minutes ago from North Carolina who said that the U.S. hunted down bin Laden like an animal and he didn't get a fair trial. Well, bin Laden was an animal. He did get a fair trial. Court has been adjourned. And God bless this great country of ours.
Oh, thanks for the call. Next up is Glen Rock, Wyoming. Good morning to you, caller.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I want to say thank you, troops, thank you, America, it's over. But I think half of America wants some kind of proof. Are they going to show anything? Some kind of America is wanting some proof of the death of bin Laden.
Caller, I can only speculate because, again, we got the confirmation from the President tonight, statements from members of Congress, and clearly in the next 24 to 48 hours, more details, not only what happened in the mission, which took place about 35 miles north of Islamabad. 4 helicopters involved in the operation. One of those helicopters, we should point out, crashed with the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. Next is a caller from Birmingham, Alabama. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Carla. I want to say congratulations to all the families and to the troops. And I don't need confirmation. My president's word is good enough for me.
Thanks for the call. Iowa City, Iowa. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Sam. I want to congratulate the troops and everything they've done. The CIA for getting something right. But I'm an old hippie from way back, protested to the Vietnam War. The thing I want is, I think it's spectacular that bin Laden got his justice. The only thing that bothers me is all of a sudden the American public is starting to act like the fringe of the Muslims. We're jumping up and down and celebrating the death of somebody. What does that say about our morality?
Okay, thanks for the call. Richmond, Virginia is next. Good morning to you, caller. Again, live view right outside of Washington. Here in Washington, outside the White House, I should say, here in Washington, D.C. Richmond, go ahead, please.
Yes, I would like to say, America, we're done, we're good. I'm so happy that this time is actually gone, and actually, everybody that got killed in the towers can now rest in peace, actually, for good now. And I just want to say, America, we don't have to worry about them no more. Everything is over.
From Congressman Peter King, who is the chair of the House Committee on Homeland Security. He is from the New York City area. Quote, "This great success would not have been possible without the tireless work of countless brave men and women who have served around the world in this war on terror." Next up is a call from Miami, Florida. Good evening to you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to thank the soldiers for a job well done, and I want to congratulate the President Obama on a great job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, we have been showing you the scene here in Washington, D.C. We'll continue to share with you some of the statements from members of Congress with the announcement earlier tonight confirmed by the President in a statement that took place just after 11:30 Eastern Time with the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. His body is in U.S. custody. We now want to rejoin Al Jazeera with their live coverage as we come to you early on a Monday morning here on C-SPAN television.
I mean, everybody said that he was in the tribal areas, someplace the Pakistani army couldn't get to. That made amount of sense, but this suggests there's some sort of complicity in Pakistan to hide this man for at least a while, but we're not going to know that until the details come out about this, if it ever does, because I don't think the Pakistanis are going to want to admit what they knew and when they knew it.
Right, and it's also interesting that, all this time, he was believed to be in tribal, inaccessible, mountainous areas, and yet he's killed in a city in Pakistan. How do you explain this? Why would he move to a city, a crowded city, where he's likely to be recognized by anyone?
I was living in Pakistan 3 years ago when we joked about that he was in a compound in Islamabad, but nobody, that was reasonable would suggest that he was so close to the capital. This was this big surprise for me.
Yeah.
Was he protected by a faction of the ISI, the intelligence service, part of the army? In Pakistan, as a police state, you just cannot hide in a country like that without coming to the notice, especially when you have your own security of the local police or the military.
So do you suspect then that Pakistani officials might have known all along, for a long time anyway, that he was in fact where he was?
Yeah, well, I'm entering it's a speculation at this point, but maybe they discovered he was there early on and decided that it was time to tell the Americans to get the drone attacks to stop, a trade. He was becoming too expensive. But the Pakistani intelligence service is very, very good. And again, I say this is the surprise, and it's not that we've caught him, not that it's been 10 years. but the fact he was so deep in Pakistan.
But, okay, as we've been hearing, Robert, all this evening, and even from Barack Obama has been very cautious, saying that this is not the end of it. And in fact, now U.S. embassies across the world have raised their levels because the fear is, of course, the risk of attacks now, of reprisal attacks from other al-Qaeda affiliates around the world.
He's going to be looked at as a martyr by militant. In anybody with access to the internet that can put fatwas on the internet, anybody that can get weapons or explosives can take revenge for this attack, and he will be looked at as a martyr. He devoted his life and died for a cause that a lot of people believe in. No, it's not finished. His removal could actually make things worse. I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it could.
Okay, Robert Baer on the line there with us from the United States, commenting news of Osama bin Laden's death. Let's now talk to Al Jazeera's producer Ali Sikandar, who is in Abbottabad, where bin Laden is said to have been killed, and he witnessed the entire operation. Tell us what you saw.
Yes, it's like this at around 12:30, quarter to 1 at night. I was watching TV, so I heard a couple of helicopters fly over, and they were circling. So I went out to see. I could not spot those helicopters. The lights were off, and presumably they were flying very low. Then all of a sudden I had one blast, then 3 other low-intensity blasts. Then the 5th blast was so big that the whole sky went orange. And my neighbors, we got info that most probably there's a high value target who's being
killed.
Taken under operation.
Right. When exactly did this operation take place? Just remind us.
See, around 12:30 onwards, quarter to 1 would be more correct.
You mean last night?
Or a good half an hour.
Last night?
Yeah, last night. This morning, in fact.
This morning, in fact. Okay.
Early morning.
So this is quite recent then. But did you get a sense, being there in Abbottabad, that something was happening, that something was in the air in the last few days or last few weeks?
Oh yes. Not the last few days. There was helicopters flying at this time of the night. It's very rare. At least I haven't witnessed it. People have said in the earthquakes that the helicopters used to fly. But this was unusual. And, I said to my neighbor, look, the pilot is very good because I cannot spot a helicopter. That means it's flying extremely low level.
So,
hello?
Yes, we're still talking to you here. Can you hear me? Okay, we've lost our producer in Abbottabad there, who was telling us about the circumstances. Oh, he's still there. Okay, great. Tell us, U.S. officials reporting that it wasn't just bin Laden who was killed in this operation, but 3 other people, including one of his sons.
Exactly. The local media saying his adult son and a couple of other colleagues of his. And I think a lady was also killed. This is what the local media says.
Okay. Now tell us about Abbottabad a bit more. How populated is this city? I mean, why would bin Laden go to Abbottabad after having been hiding in the mountains, it seems, for such a long time? This is what people believe anyway, hiding in inaccessible mountainous areas. Why Abbottabad, in your opinion?
In my opinion is that it's a small metropolitan city. It's got all the facilities, medical facilities, education facilities. The climate is superb. It's like paradise. Compared to Karachi is like hell. This place is paradise. Even now, we're in the middle of late spring. The weather is superb. So keeping all these aspects in mind and being right under the nose of the authorities. Well, I'm not meaning to say that the authorities knew that they was here, but Karachi is a very good place to hide also.
Did you get a sense that Pakistani authorities knew he was there?
I cannot talk on that, but our intelligence is, mashallah, very good. So definitely, without them, no one can move an inch.
All right, thank you very much. So it seems that bin Laden was hiding in plain sight in what our producer there in Abbottabad describes as paradise before he was killed by U.S. officials. Let's speak now to Algeria's Kais Azimi, who joins us on the line from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Kais, what's the latest from where you are? What's the reaction to bin Laden's death?
Well, there is no official reaction from government, neither from Taliban yet. But I could manage to speak with one government senior source in presidential palace. He told me that killing of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, in fact, that close to Islamabad, that answers all the questions. And in fact, that he was saying that for many years we were claiming that he is across the border in Pakistan. No one would believe us till now. And I could manage to speak with another politician that he told me that because the killing of Osama bin Laden now is because the relationship between Pakistan and United States is very in a tense situation, and it was a gift to United States from Pakistani officials to Americans to build this relationship. And also we spoke with a Taliban commander fighter, and he said that the killing of Osama bin Laden might not affect much in the war in Afghanistan, because now the Taliban are not the Taliban of 2003 or 2002. The Taliban are very organized now, and even if Al-Qaeda did have a rule, it was the rule of facilitator, and in the past 10 years, officials are saying in the past 10 years, Osama bin Laden trained many other people to be like him. Now the big question mark for the people of Afghanistan, that about a man that he had a relationship of almost 3 decades with this country, from the war with Russia, the civil war he was here, and also in the current situation, that the killing of him will bring a security or will affect the current situation in Afghanistan or not. The time will tell us.
Okay, thank you very much. Our correspondent is there in Kabul, Afghanistan. Let's speak some more now to Mark Kimmett, retired U.S. Army Brigadier General and former Deputy Director of Plans and Strategy at CENTCOM, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. Are you surprised at all to hear that bin Laden had been hiding in plain sight in what's being described by our producer in Abbottabad as paradise?
No, I'm not really surprised. This is fairly typical in